Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's jump straight into the day's headlines. See you soon? Not likely. North Korea tosses cold water over the Trump administration's hopes to restart nuclear talks with the regime. The North says it's no longer interested as it gets nothing in return from the US. Hearing from the people as he enters the second half of his term, President Jaein will tonight hold a televised Q&A session with citizens on everything from North Korea to the local economy. Plus, second time a charm or merely confirming their differences. Officials from South Korea and Japan are set to clash at the WTO's Geneva HQ over Tokyo's damaging trade curbs on Seoul. South Korea and the United States are continuing negotiations on the cost sharing of American troops here on the Korean Peninsula for a second day as we speak. The talks are led again by South Korea's top negotiator, Jong Eun-bo, and his US counterpart, James DeHart. The two sides are expected to get into the specifics today after Monday's talks focused on sharing each other's basic stance on the issue. Washington is reportedly calling on Seoul to pay $5 billion, more than 5 times the amount South Korea agreed to pay under the current deal that expires at the end of this year. Seoul has said repeatedly the figure needs to be fair and acceptable to both sides. Since 1991, Seoul has shared the defense costs with the US under the Special Measures Agreement. Now, North Korea says it has zero interest in holding denuclearization talks with the United States unless Washington drops what Pyongyang calls its hostile policy against the regime. Lee Seung-jae with the details.
The impasse in the denuclearization negotiations between Pyongyang and Washington appears likely to rumble on. North Korea's former top negotiator in nuclear talks, Kim Yong-chol, says the regime has no interest in holding denuclearization negotiations with the United States until Washington stops acting in such a hostile way towards the regime. The statement, carried by the North state-run Korean Central News Agency on Tuesday, quoted the vice chairman of the ruling Workers' Party Central Committee as demanding the U.S. withdraw from combined military exercises with South Korea or completely stop the exercises. Kim added that postponing the combined military exercises does not guarantee peace and security on the Korean Peninsula, nor does it help diplomatic efforts to solve the problem. Kim's statement came just hours after another senior North Korean official, Kim Ga-kwan, made similar remarks, saying the North is no longer interested in talks that bring nothing to the regime. The advisor to the North's foreign ministry said Pyongyang has received nothing in return so far, adding North Korea will no longer gift President Trump something he can boast of at home. Kim is apparently referring to President Trump's repeated claims that he averted war with North Korea by holding 3 summits with Kim Jong-un and securing a suspension of the regime's nuclear and missile tests. Over the weekend, President Trump took to Twitter to urge North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to act quickly and get a deal done on the regime's nuclear program. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea may have sneered at the possibility of holding further talks with the US, but South Korea's Unification minister is remaining hopeful after a luncheon with US Special Representative for North Korea Policy Stephen Biegun in Washington Monday. Kim Yeon-chol said the US is considering various options to hold successful talks with North Korea. He didn't elaborate on what those options might be, citing the sensitivity of the issue. This is Kim's first trip to the US since becoming minister in April. North Korea's first vice foreign minister, Choi Sun-hee, is reportedly in Russia for talks with her Russian counterparts. The Russian embassy in Pyongyang said Monday that Choi had departed the North Korean capital. The embassy also released a photo of Russia's ambassador to the north, escorting her to the plane at Pyongyang's main airport. The diplomat is expected to board a flight from Vladivostok to Moscow on Tuesday. While the exact purpose of her visit is unclear, Japan's Kyodo news agency speculates Choi will discuss the regime's stalled denuclearization talks with the US. Now, once the crown jewel in terms of inter-Korean projects, South Korean tours to North Korea's famous Mount Geumgang hang in the balance as Pyongyang is demanding Seoul come and tear down its facilities at the resort that's barely been used since 2008. Now, analysts say the North is aiming to develop its own tourism sector, but faces somewhat of a dilemma on whether to involve South Korea or not. Oh Jung-hee has this report.
Pyongyang first notified Seoul late last month that it should come and demolish its facilities and that the details could be decided through written exchanges. In turn, South Korea suggested holding working-level talks and sending a team north to inspect the facilities, both of which were rejected. Seoul has been looking to create an opportunity for the two sides to meet and talk face-to-face, and as much as the tours began as a joint project and in view of their historical significance. But the regime has completely rejected that possibility. A North Korea expert says Pyongyang never intended to discuss and mutually agree to the tearing down of South Korean facilities. It had already made up its mind.
Next year is the last year of the regime's 5-year economic development plan, and the most effective way to see any substantial fruition is to boost tourism. Pyongyang has been expecting Seoul to resume Mount Kumgang tours, but that didn't happen until now, and therefore the North is very pessimistic about cooperating with the South.
The North aims to finish building the Wonsan-Galma tourist area on its eastern coast by next April, and Mount Kumgang is included in this zone. It's believed North Korea would want to work on Mount Kumgang as well and put an end to 10 years of neglect. The North wants to develop and run the tours independently and would let South Koreans come later. But this doesn't mean that the North is completely confident in its plans.
Even though Mount Geumgang is very beautiful, unless there are tourists from South Korea, it'll be difficult for the North to get back its investment. In the long term, it'll be a loss that could even dry up the regime's finances. It's a dilemma for the North. Even though it wants to lead the tour business without South Korea, it won't be able to see profits.
The door for dialogue with the North seems closed at the moment, and regarding what Seoul should do, experts have divided opinions. Some say South Korea should keep knocking the door and suggest a new creative way to resume the tours. Others say now is not the right time, and Seoul should rather focus on securing properties at the resort. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, President Moon Jae-in will hold a televised town hall meeting with some 300 citizens this evening in a special carried live by local broadcaster MBC to mark the start of his second half of his 5-year term. The South Korean leader will answer randomly selected questions about his administration while explaining the direction of his policies.
We look forward to the people's thoughts being delivered directly to the president. We expect this forum will be a place of unity and true interaction as we look for the right way to go based on the president's answers.
The channel you're watching now, Arirang TV, will also bring you live coverage of the 100-minute session from 8 p.m. Korea time. Our translators will be on hand for you. President Moon will not be informed of the questions beforehand. No other South Korean leader has answered questions in such a format. Now, ahead of the second round of talks between South Korea and Japan at the WTO regarding a dispute over Tokyo's trade restrictions on South Korea, Seoul's top negotiator says he could consider pushing for the next step of the dispute settlement process if these talks don't go well. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
South Korea's chief negotiator for discussions with Japan at the World Trade Organization says Seoul is mulling the possibility of pushing for the establishment of a panel at the WTO's dispute settlement body if the two sides fail to find common ground on Tokyo's export curbs.
We will push for the next step, which is to establish a related panel if Japan does not engage in consultations in a proactive manner.
Speaking to reporters in Geneva on Monday, Chung Hae-kwan, Director General of Multilateral and Legal Affairs at the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, added he will exert his utmost efforts to resolve the trade route through dialogue. He will sit down with his Japanese counterpart Junichiro Kuroda. During the meeting, Seoul will continue to claim that Tokyo has violated a set of international trade rules, including Article 11 of the WTO's General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which bans regulations on export volumes unless the products have a serious impact on national security. Tokyo is expected to stress it has not violated WTO regulations, adding its measures are the result of Seoul's weak export management. Last month, the two sides failed to reach an agreement in their first talks in Geneva in connection with Seoul's complaint over Japan's export curbs on 3 key materials required for the production of semiconductors and other high-tech materials. It remains to be seen whether the two sides can reach an agreement this time. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, in tech news, Line Corporation, an affiliate of the South Korean internet portal Naver, will merge with the parent company of Yahoo Japan. Ji-young reports.
The merger was announced Monday by Line's parent company Naver and Yahoo Japan's operating company Z Holdings, a subsidiary of SoftBank. Naver currently owns 73% of Line Corporation, and SoftBank has a 45% stake in Z Holdings. Under the merger, Naver and SoftBank will each take a 50% stake in a new company that'll operate Line as a joint venture, in turn running both Line Messenger and Yahoo Japan. To proceed with the deal, Naver and SoftBank are planning to publicly purchase all outstanding Line shares and sign the formal agreement next month. Line is one of the most popular messaging apps in Japan, Taiwan, and Thailand. In Japan, it's used by more than 80 million people, which is far more than the number of Japanese users of other services like Instagram and Facebook. Yahoo Japan is the country's second largest internet portal with roughly 50 million users. It competes with Google, and in other services like e-commerce, its competitors include giants Alibaba and Rakuten. If signed, the merger would create Japan's biggest internet platform, providing a range of services from messenger, search, and e-commerce to financial services with over 100 million users. Through the merger, the two companies expect to generate synergy, accelerate their growth in artificial intelligence and other areas to strengthen competitive advantage among global platforms. Ji-young, Arirang News.
The United States has issued a 90-day extension of a license that allows American companies to continue doing business with the Chinese tech giant Huawei. The Trump administration announced the decision on Monday local time. Earlier this year, the U.S. Commerce Department added Huawei to an economic blacklist, citing national security concerns, but it has allowed the tech giant to continue doing limited business with American companies. The government has announced measures to help South Korea's small and mid-sized companies adapt to new rules on maximum working hours that are going to be taking effect in 2020. Hong Yu with the details.
Starting from next year, the mandatory 52-hour workweek regulation will be expanded to small and medium-sized companies with 50 to 299 employees. To help these firms cope with the change, the government announced some complementary measures on Monday morning. The measures include an extension of the guidance period from 6 months to a longer period, during which companies will avoid punishment when they have employees who work more than 52 hours. The guidance period will vary depending on the size of the company and the amount of effort a company has put into following the 52-hour workweek regulations. The measures will also ease the requirements for granting special extended work hours for certain situations that require intensive labor. Special extended hours are currently permitted for limited occasions, such as natural disasters, but they will be expanded to allow for times when there is a temporary surge in workload. Lastly, the government says that they will support SMEs that are short of employees. The government is planning to expand the employment of overseas Koreans for sectors suffering from labor shortages. The Minister of Employment and Labor, Lee Jae-gap, said these improved measures will be imposed sometime in January if the revised Labor Standards Act doesn't get through the National Assembly by then.
However, even with the complementary measures, there are limitations to how much these measures will improve working conditions. It is essential to improve the system through a revision of the law to solve fundamental problems.
Labor representatives argue that the expansion of special overtime work could be used arbitrarily and that it is tantamount to giving up on the attempts to shorten Korea's working hours. Hong-yu, Arirang News.
Shifting gears now, a special pop-up store opened in 2 spots in Paris over the weekend, showcasing Korea's traditional desserts. Sweet Seoul opened for 2 days at the Galeries Lafayette department store and at a 2-star Michelin Korean restaurant in the French capital. 5 Korean dessert chefs presented traditional desserts made from sticky rice, nuts and fruits. The Seoul Metropolitan Government is holding the event to introduce Korea's culture and food during Seoul Week, which runs from November 14th to the 21st. The pop-up store will also open in New York for 2 days, starting Wednesday. Now, ASEAN is already an important partner for South Korea in a great many sectors, including economy and culture. We now turn to part 2 of our 5-part special series on the upcoming ASEAN summits in Busan by taking a closer look at the synergy between South Korea and ASEAN. Yoon Jung-min has this report.
Southeast Asia is one of South Korea's closest neighbors geographically, economically, and socially. The two first established a partial partnership in 1989 and upgraded it to a full dialogue partnership in 1991, and now ASEAN is South Korea's second largest trading partner and third largest investment market. As of 2018, the trade volume between South Korea and ASEAN reached over $159 billion. Exports from Korea to ASEAN amounted to around $100 billion, while imports from ASEAN to Korea were more than $59 billion. Seoul is bolstering its ties with a broader regional bloc as well. In early November, South Korea, ASEAN, and other key partners, including China, Japan, and Australia, reached an agreement in Bangkok over the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership.
At a critical time when protectionism is threatening the global economy, we agreed on the significance of the free, open, and rule-based RCEP more than at any other time.
Experts stress the importance of diversifying partners, especially with ASEAN amid growing global uncertainties.
Under the U.S.-China intensified competition, and also we are facing the Korea-Japan trade disputes. Under those circumstances, we need to alternative production site and production, so we need ASEAN as the main partner for them.
The two sides have been also expanding cultural ties. For more exchanges, the ASEAN Korea Center was established in Seoul in 2009, and the ASEAN Culture House opened in Busan in 2017. In 2018, nearly 9 million South Koreans visited ASEAN countries, as Southeast Asia is a popular tourist destination for Koreans. Going the other way, more than 2 million people from ASEAN visited Korea last year.
And we are emphasizing the importance of people-to-people exchange and heart-to-heart exchanges. In that regard, K-pop and K-drama, K-food, and even K-beauty are popular in ASEAN countries.
Some experts also point out the possibility of three-way cooperation by South Korea, North Korea, and ASEAN in the future, as Pyongyang has been also maintaining its partnership with ASEAN. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Hong Kong has been witnessing the most intense violence of the city's roughly half-year-long protests, and they're taking place at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Kim Da-mi. Da-mi, of course, this is still a fluid situation, but what's the latest?
Mark, dozens of protesters managed to escape from the university on Monday night on the back of motorcycles as police fired projectiles at them. According to Reuters, the protesters clad in all black were seen clambering onto waiting motorcycles and lowering themselves as they sped away to avoid projectiles. But not everyone got away. Over 600 student protesters remain in the university, where police have used rubber bullets and tear gas to prevent them escaping. Student protesters armed with patrol bombs held their ground against the police, refusing to leave after witnessing riot police arresting emergency medical technicians. However, the standoff might not last much longer, as the university's student council has voiced concerns that food and medicine are running out inside the university. In related news, Hong Kong pro-democracy activist Joshua Wong and human rights group Amnesty International have urged Germany to stop providing military training to Chinese troops stationed in Hong Kong. Based on a report out of Germany, the German military plans to train 11 Hong Kong-based Chinese soldiers next year. Along with Amnesty International, the United States and the United Kingdom have expressed deep concern over the unrest, urging the Hong Kong government to guarantee the safety and freedom of its citizens. However, the Chinese ambassador to the UK on Monday strongly warned Britain against interfering in the city's affairs. A suspension bridge has collapsed in southwestern France, leaving a teenager and a truck driver dead. Officials said 2 vehicles fell into the river turn on Monday morning when a truck, a car, and possibly a van were crossing the bridge. 5 people were seriously injured, including 2 rescuers and locals who tried to save the victims. According to local media, the bridge fell because one of the trucks exceeded the bridge's weight limits. An investigation has been launched to find the exact cause of the incident. Data from Brazil's National Institute for Space Research shows deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon has hit its highest rates in more than a decade. The institute says deforestation increased nearly 30% between August 2018 to July 2019 compared to the same period the previous year, marking the highest rate of deforestation since 2008. The cleared area, which spans over 9,700 square kilometers, is larger than Yellowstone National Park in the U.S. The report also highlights how President Jair Bolsonaro's policies are driving the destruction.
Good morning. Temperatures plunged overnight in Korea with a cold wave advisory issued for central regions. Mount Seoraksan saw a low of minus 15.5 degrees Celsius this morning, and Seoul and surrounding regions had the coldest temperatures of the season so far this morning. And the wind is making it feel even colder, so let's all dress warmly today. Daily highs will also be on chillier side. Seoul will see a high of just 4 degrees this afternoon, Jeju topping out at 12 degrees. Korea's central inland regions and Jeju are expected to see 1 centimeter of snow this morning though, so drive with extra care. The rest of us will see more sunshine today. It's shaping up to be even colder tomorrow morning. The cold snap will stick around until Thursday, so let's all stay bundled up. After this cold snap, though, we can expect milder than average temperatures through early next week. So till then, stay warm and take good care of yourself. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the globe.
Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. Plenty more in the lineup. And we have our next newscast that's coming up at noon Korea time in around an hour and a half from now. So until then, goodbye.
Following the inter-Korean summits and the North Korea-US summits, a journey toward peace on the Korean peninsula has become inevitable. 2019 has seen countless twists and turns in negotiations as all parties work to build peace and search for a winning solution for all. Peace and Prosperity will explore paths to find these resolutions with a special emphasis on the expected role of Seoul. Peace and Prosperity. Many people may be familiar with the bigger conglomerates in Korea, but small and medium-sized businesses have also been going global. In an effort to support the growth of small and medium-sized businesses, BizSmart aims to introduce and review many original Korean products which may still be internationally unfamiliar. Don't miss your chance to learn about all the latest technologies and products changing the global market. BizSmart. Economic news packaged from a different angle. Korea had been reliant on Japan for core components and technology, but after Japan's trade restrictions, we are seeing a localization boom in many industries. Learn about Korea's manufacturing industries in the world of robotics, automobiles, batteries, and more. And hear about the importance of independent technology and material development in the country. Korea 4.0.
Gangnam, the heart of Seoul, has turned into a huge theater for the Gangnam Festival, staging new things to see and enjoy every day. Get ready for its fun attraction.
Welcome to Gangnam Insider's Pick. This is Stephanie. 2019 Gangnam Festival Part 2 has started. Everyone can play the main role, even you're a resident or an artist or even an animal. So are you ready to party? Let's go.
Celebrating its 8th anniversary this year, the Gangnam Festival is the biggest festival set in the middle of the city in Korea. Culinary delights